Hello and welcome to Stay in Your Lane, a podcast about serial experiments Lane. I am your host, Lokomasi, with me are my co-hosts, Fafner Masamune.
For example, if Lain were sitting at this table, no matter who you are, even if you're the Pope, you would have no choice but to take your napkin after Lain, yes?
Alice.
If you think about it, there is nothing outside of the text, and therefore there is nothing outside of Lain.
And Jenner.
Hey, did you know that if you rearrange the letters in the word subtext, it says butt sex? I'm gay.
Today, we are talking about Layer 06, Kids.
Say the darndest things.
Um,
I hear. Y'all remember Highlights magazines? Speaking of kids.
I just kept referencing the MGMT song
Uh-huh.
whenever I watched this.
Am I the only one
Our
old
opening
enough for
narration.
No, this is important. Am I the only one old enough for Highlights magazines in this podcast?
No, you are not. I have also been in a doctor's office at least once in my life. I have seen Highlight Magazine.
Okay, continue.
Highlight magazines will be in doctor's offices from now to the end of the universe.
Goofish.
They'll probably still be where the doctor's offices were after the universe is destroyed.
Goofish Jenner fucks around and interrupts the podcast constantly. Gallant Luca tries to keep the podcast on schedule. Go. I'm good.
The opening narration for this episode is a voice saying, if people can connect to each other, even the smallest voice will grow loud. If people can connect to one another, even their lives can become longer. So I know what this is saying, and this is probably one of the more straightforward intros for Lain, but I'm not 100% sure how it relates to the episode. We might talk about this more once we actually talk about what's in the episode.
Well, I'm going to talk about the part of the episode that made me think the intro was referring to it, and that got me mad, but we'll get there when we get there. So I'm with you. I've buckled in. I'm ready. I'm ready to love Lain.
The episode proper starts with Yasuo at the top of the staircase.
This guy.
He takes a very long time to get ready to enter Lane's room, and then when he finally does, he very clearly forgets whatever he was planning to say, because he steps directly into the computer cooling liquid that Lain has flooded her room with for some reason.
She's just turning her computer room into a final boss room.
It's true. Hey, look, y'all. Serial Experiments Lain predicted The Shape of Water. Go.
Quick check. Alice, did you notice in this scene that Lane's room was flooded?
Honestly, the first time, I really didn't.
You're not alone.
Oh, sure, now we're shaming me, jeez.
Yeah, I also... Okay,
Jenner
I
also...
Okay, here, let me clarify. I noticed the water, then thought the water disappeared, then thought the water came back. Do go on, though.
I really just thought it was weirdness of... Because, this series is really weird in how it uses light, and I just thought it was it being weird again. It didn't even occur to me that it was water.
Gonna be honest, that's a perfectly valid thing to guess. So I was just being weird again. Serial Experiments Lain, being weird, really?
Yeah, I was just taking in everything else in the room and also missed the sound effects.
Yeah, it was just weird to me that both people that I watched this with didn't notice that the room was flooded.
Hey,
and I think I only
said there
noticed
was
because
water.
I read about...
I said, there's water, and then I said, where'd the water go? And then I said, oh, it's wet. Don't make fun of me, I noticed. Get back to what you were doing.
I remember reading, when I was watching the show for the first time, I remember reading about the ways that Lane's room is absolutely just covered with computer stuff as the show goes on. And one of the things they mentioned was flooding the room with coolant, because that doesn't help at all. If one of these computers short wires screws up and releases a spark, you're gonna die, Lain.
My hot
You
read
will get electrocuted.
on this general lore for folks. I grew up impoverished. I think I've mentioned this before, but legally, literally impoverished, as in below the poverty, income level in the country in which I reside. Lane's bedroom is huge. No person has a room that big. Her family must be pretty well off. That's an observation that I have made, unless it's some sort of temporal matrix space. That is all from me for this segment.
Her dad can afford 6 monitors.
Yep.
I mean, look, the only thing I know about Japan I learned from Clock Tower 2, Struggle Within, not Ghost Head, that was the Japanese title. And that house is gigantic, so clearly I only have one frame of reference, and that must be true for all houses in Japan.
Clock Tower 2 is the one with Ron Weasley in it, right?
No, that's 3.
That's 3.
Okay, thanks.
And there are 2 Clock Tower 2s, right?
What?
Yeah, the PS1 game that's based off the original Clock Tower is technically the second game,
Okay.
but it was the first one to come out stateside.
Welcome to the Secret Clock Tower podcast, pocketed within the Serial Experiments Lain podcast.
I don't think you're allowed to mock us for going off on digressions, Jenner.
Yo, it's definitely realized that I'm too tired, so somebody has to step in.
I think the ground you're standing on is those donut blocks in Mario that fall
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you step on them. Anyways, we cut from Lain at her computer to Lain using her computer, and by that I mean she's just in the void.
Wait. I'm like Wile E. Coyote, actually, right? I've already wandered out into the void, and all it's going to take is me looking down for me to start falling. There aren't even bricks there, sorry. It took me a while to come up with that because I'm so tired. You can continue now.
Okay, we cut from Lain at her computer to Lain actually using her computer, and by that I mean she's just in the void. Which is sometimes how I feel when I use the internet.
Welcome to the computer zone.
We have a one-sided conversation with her and the Knights. That is, we hear Lain speak, and we can tell that other people are talking to her, but we don't know what they say, and we don't see any physical representation of them. My interpretation of this scene is that she's on, like, 2chan is the Japanese one, right?
Probably.
But she's on, like, a message
Yes.
board, and everyone is posting anonymously, except for her.
She's on Omegle.
Oh, I just had
no.
Oh man, she's
flashback.
she's on an oikake board. She's doing some art. I miss oikake boards. Yo, I'm a decade older than everybody else in this podcast.
After that scene, we then get the ubiquitous shot of Lain walking to school. But there's no Men in Black this time. Instead, we just have a small child praising the sun.
If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
There's definitely stuff to talk about with the whole praising the sun thing, but let's gonna hold off until we see more children doing this.
Well, well, not just children. Eventually, it's people. But you're getting to that point.
You're telling me children aren't people?
The
Well,
hell
it's-
is that
it's-
supposed to be,
Yeah,
Jenny?
exactly. Look, this is a kids episode, and we're establishing a dichotomy, a distinction between kids and people. It's not me; it's the show doing it. I'm just picking up on the narrative.
We then cut to Lain in class. Reika walks over and mocks her for studying too much, and Alice says that she's worried that Lain is slipping back into her solitary ways and wants her to hang out again.
Just
Lain reassures everyone that she's not really alone. She has friends on the Wired. Or rather, the way that she puts it is that I go and see lots of people, or maybe they come to see me, and then Reika realizes she's talking about the internet. Alright, Jenner, you say the line because you got really pissed off at this.
yeah, just girls like your friends on the internet aren't real, and I'm like, fuck you. These people I'm on this podcast with right now, they're friends that I met on the internet and that I have been friends with for 3+ years. The friends that you make on the internet, the relationships and connections you make on the internet, those are fucking real, Reiko. I will kick your fucking ass. I will crawl through this fucking computer into the Serial Experiments Lain universe, and I'll beat the ever-living shit out of you, and I'll show you how real an internet connection is. And I can tell you, it's super, super real, but also super, super bad, because, look, it's on satellite internet, and it's garbage. Yeah, I mean...
I'm not on satellite internet, I'm on broadband. It's just bad broadband.
It's bad. I met my spouse through the internet. I met my original fiance because of the internet. I met basically almost all of the most important people in my life via the internet. This fucking bitch gonna tell me the internet is fake? Bitch, let's go. 1v1 me. That's all, I'm good. Your relationships on the internet are fucking real. But you do need, like, actual flesh, physical, like, interactions and, like, networks in your area so you don't fucking, like, starve and die if, like, something horrible happens to you. Like, for example, okay? If I were to, like, fall down in the tub and, like, break my fucking leg, none of you could come help me. I just have to lay in that tub if I didn't have my spouse and just die. So, yeah, you do need flesh and blood people and flesh and blood connections. The human did not, like...
Or
evolve.
Life Alert from the sound of it.
I'm that old now, folks. But, like, the human beings, us as a species, did not evolve to just, like, survive on our own as, like, an island. No man is. We need, like, actual flesh and blood connections to, like, survive. But internet relationships are good, and they're real, and fuck Reiko. 20, whatever year it is that this show was made, and also into 2021, which is what it is now.
1998.
Happy, yep, Happy New Year. And that's the end of my rant. Thanks. I love all of you.
Yeah.
You're my real friends.
You said it was the end of your rant. Stop.
That's
Stop.
all.
In other words, net pals are real pals.
Yes.
Is that how they worded it in the English dub, net pals? Because that's what the sub was.
I don't remember. I think they may have said that. I think she said you can't consider a net pal your friend. They're barely even an acquaintance.
I'm glad net pal is just the consistent phrase, because I don't think I've ever used it.
I'm gonna start using it.
It's like...
Just gals being net pals? Sorry.
The language around the internet changes so much so quickly that I can't even get mad at outdated internet terms anymore, because, like, I'm getting to the point where I'm about to start using outdated terms.
I mean, some are tried and true. Like, LOL is always going to be LOL, BRB always going to be BRB, FK. Like, some are tried and true, right? Look, colon and then forward slash is just, that's universal, okay? But yeah, I get what you're saying.
I didn't mean the things that people say on the internet. I mean the way that people talk about
the terminology, yeah.
Yes, that's what reminds me. I was going to say, it's weird that this is what's reminding me to say this, but now's as good a time as any to bring up one of the universal rules of fiction interpretation, and that is that depiction does not equal endorsement. Just because Reika says this doesn't mean it's what the creators of the show think or believe. And while in the scene it's pretty clear that Reika is the only one that thinks this way, even if all the other characters agreed with her, that doesn't mean that the creators agree with them, or anything like that.
In the video game Chrono Cross, there's an option to go into a marsh and kill a Hydra, and it also takes the marsh with it, I think, but you get a gland that you can use to heal one of the minor characters, whose name is Kid. And if you do that, though, there's those sweeping repercussions. But it's not like the creators of Chrono Cross are saying we should destroy the biomes. That's just a story element in the game Chrono Cross. There, I did it. I mentioned Chrono Cross. I'm good now.
I think I astral projected.
Good.
Anyways, the rest of her friends ask Lain what website she's been to, and Lain will not say. She says it's a secret.
I told Luca that she went to www.porn.com, and this was a real website back in the day. Back when the net was originally created, you could only have that many characters plus the .com in the name of your thing before it broke the internet. I'm not joking. So the person made the site with just the word porn over and over and over again that many times, those 7 times, or however many times I mentioned it. I counted it off on my fingers, but then I forgot, just to have it. And it was great, and it was a real site, and there was 0 porn on it, but it was there, and it was good for this month that it existed before it just disappeared off the net. Some ancient internet lore for all of you children at home.
Then cut to this friend group out on the... I just have to note that anytime Lain is even, slightly changed from her model sheet, she looks incredibly strange to me. Lain in a jacket, wearing a beanie with lipstick on is just what the hell am I looking at? It's like the uncanny valley of Lain.
Yeah. I do want to say they are making their way downtown, but they are not walking fast, and faces are not passing, and they are not homebound.
As they walk, they look around, and they see more children are praising the sun.
This is the best way that we can describe this, just so y'all know. It really does look like the praise the sun emote in Dark Souls.
Yeah, they're either praising the sun or giving their energy to Goku for the spirit bomb.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same pose.
I forgot to mention this last time, but whenever Lain sees a child doing this, she looks at the child and then looks at where they appear to be looking and doesn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But during this scene, eventually, the clouds open up to reveal Giant Naked Lain, which is the close genetic relative of the Giant Naked Ray.
Well,
who posted my nudes in the sky?
It's naked, but it's in that we don't actually articulate it, so we don't get in trouble kind of naked. Also, I was gonna joke
It's
about
animated.
how
It's
and,
symbolic.
okay, look. It doesn't immediately like the clouds slowly part to reveal Naked Lane,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to make several jokes about how it wasn't Goatse yet before Naked Lane was revealed. That's all.
I'm really sorry, but I do have to say
Yeah,
that, like, is anyone else going to look at Lane's face when she's, like, looking up at the sky and think to yourself, her mouth is really small? Like, weirdly small. Like, it looks like
You're
a meme
right.
edit.
God, yeah, that is such a tiny mouth. It's smaller than her nose.
It's uncomfortably disproportionate.
How does she breathe
I'm
through
gonna hate
that?
myself for saying this. Future Loca put up a side by side between this Lane and Shock Pikachu.
I believe in you. I believe in your ability to do this.
I can see it though.
Yeah, that's good. Don't forget. Look, if you forget, I'm gonna be upset.
But yeah, I never thought about that, especially because this is supposed to be like a slack-jawed, jaw hits the ground moment for her, and her mouth is open smaller than her nose. The animation in this, in general, I keep forgetting to look up the actual people involved, but I think this shares some production staff with Digimon. I know Chiaki Kanaka was a writer for Digimon, but I think, like, maybe some of the directors or animators also followed him. Because a lot of the scenes in this look like the best animated scenes in original Digimon, like the movie, or those couple of episodes that are animated like the movie. It occasionally slips into that, and it's always very fun when it does. Oh yes, we also get shots of everybody else reacting, so this isn't just opening up to Lain, this is opening up to everybody in the city. Everybody outside right now can see Lain in the sky. In this context, it looks more like the children are worshipping her or they're memeing on her. It's kind of hard to tell. If they were T-posing, it would be more obvious, but I think the implication they're going for is worshipping her.
Just like Lain has become the avatar Jesus of the internet, so have I become the avatar / Jesus of Chrono Cross.
So, this is like a weird point of interpretation I never really considered. Do you think that this Lain in the sky is supposed to make Lain look good or bad?
I mean,
Good, probably. It's got all those classic god tropes.
go on.
In the sky, golden clouds.
They're not. Wait, the clouds
guess-
are golden since when?
Kinda?
Okay.
There's a golden
It's
aura
yellow.
around her. I think the clouds are still
guess-
white, but there's
I guess it's
gold
more of a yellow
in the sky.
tint than full-on golden, but still.
Go on. And what other god qualifiers are there? I need to know.
Fucking, what else are you gonna... Are you gonna fucking praise the sun at Satan?
Yeah, I mean, is there? Where's the angelic choir? It's here on my checklist.
This is the fucking
weren't listening
internet.
to the
You have to
music?
download the MIDI
You
first.
gotta download the MIDI. That's right.
Got two.
The society is not yet ready for EGOD Lane.
You know,
But-
You are missing plugins, my child.
Jeff was just talking to us, what was it, yesterday, about VTubers? And Fefner came in right in the middle of the conversation where Jeff got really, really political. And it was so good, because Fefner walked right in and Jeff was like, we should do a big crime sting that I don't want on a podcast. And I just thought Fefner was going to baby gif right out. Like, you've seen that gif of the baby?
Jenner, can you please stop saying things with the intention of me cutting them out?
Oh, no. I actually want to keep that in because I censored it. But you've all seen the baby gif of the baby running into the room and then noticing something and then turning around and running right back out again. That's what I thought Fefner was gonna do, but no, she stayed in. She's strong. Anyway, VTubers.
So anyway, different thought real quick.
Yeah.
Is Adobe attempting to, like, modern day kill Lane God by removing Flash?
Yeah.
Because
this
Flash is
it.
such an integral part of the internet.
Yeah, this is it. This is the Adobe's a god killer.
Flash connected us all to Lane, and now they're taking it away.
Hey, well, here's the thing about Lain, because she was connected to the internet, right? Alice helped me out here with this bit, alright? She was consumed entirely by fandom, especially Homestuck. So she was already a lost cause, so she needed to be put down.
It's all a kind of double Mobius reach around of Lane. Just a serious thing to happen.
Alright, so here on my checklist of things that God needs, I got Glowing. I got Parted Clouds. I got Angelic Choir, which wasn't here, but you said we gotta download the MIDI. And I've got Can Do Miracles. Now, look, we have not seen any miracles yet.
I feel like most of this show has been that.
You don't think appearing in the sky is a miracle?
I mean, it's not a burning bush, right? Come on now.
Anyways, Fefner, my initial reaction was, like with you, I saw this as more like portraying Lain as a god because of the children worshipping her and all that.
Mm-hmm. Whether or not, that's actually good is up to the viewer's interpretation, of course. But in story,
Right, but
I think it's supposed to be good.
I saw this as a show of power from Lain, not against Lain. At least that's what it looks like.
Alright, Alice, you're the one who could spout off a bunch of theology terminology. I have to be more awake for that. It is your time to shine. Talk to us about God, Lain.
Okay, so if I have to go off of what we've seen there, like, it's weird to talk about how a Japanese show envisions the idea of godhood with a Western audience, because even when they are trying to do a more Western understanding of godhood, which I don't think they are, for the record, it is going to be kind of alien to the way that we usually use that terminology. So the best I can give you here is kind of, I'm reminded of like the idea of it's an old like Neoplatonic / kind of Gnostic idea of like the sort of the emanations of that, like reality is a series of emanations from a central form of what the world is. And that's kind of what Lain is like, I think. Kind of like, we keep seeing these emanations of Lain in things. Like, as if just by existing, Lain changes the world because it's all kind of emanating out from her like light, I guess you could say. So we see her in the clouds. We see her in The Wired. People just know who she is, even if they don't even know her name.
Before Kingdom Hearts was light, Lain was light. Got it.
Yes.
For me, my understanding of God from when I went to seminary, because that's genre lore, just so y'all know, I tried to be a preacher for like a whole 2 weeks, and then I was like, fuck this noise. Is that how one perceives God is kind of instrumental in their understanding of God. And so we don't know what those kids are seeing. We're only seeing Lain through maybe at best Lain's eyes. Lain is looking up there and she is seeing herself, but those kids could be seeing something completely different and worshiping it. We don't know. Like, we can't see through their eyes what they are seeing. We can assume that it is also Lain, but we don't know because we're only seeing it through Lain's eyes. This is like that nature of this multiplicity God that like embodies this this conceptualization of like the kind of God that you would want to exist is the kind of God you envision. Like my favorite professor in seminary said, like, all those hateful, vindictive, judgmental fuckers, they love the Old Testament God who will throw a meteor down on the dinosaurs. But like actual, what would Jesus do, Christians and other folk of that type, like, the God who don't do that, and that's the God they look for. And so when, like, what is, like, that was the thing that seminary guy impressed upon me, is that when you look up at God and you envision God, the kind of God you envision says more about you and your understanding of the divine than it does about God. It's, the human beings anthropomorphize things. It's something we evolved to do. And so it's also something we do with the divine. That's and also we're all furries and we can't not be. There we go. I just made it a shit post, but I was serious up until the last part. I was also serious about that last part.
Now I'm just trying to think of depictions of God in the Bible, and I forget which patriarch of Israel was the one that wrestled with God
Yeah!
for like a full night.
Yeah!
And I'm just picturing like, okay, so this guy saw God as a sparring partner.
It's
like,
Jacob, by the way.
This guy was just raring for a fight. Jacob, you said?
Yeah, it's Jacob.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrestle God and no one can stop me.
He wrestles God for a whole night, He wrestles God for a whole night so that he can eventually kind of win. So that hopefully ask for a blessing. And then
Yes, God taps out.
and God says, "You know what? Fuck this," and messes with his leg. Then it never heals entirely, 100%. Just to, he walks again, but always with a little limp to remind him that he got off really fucking easy.
So yes, Jacob wrestled God with a broken hip and didn't lose. Enough about God. It's time to go back to Lane's house.
What if God was one of us? Okay.
Lane's mom is talking to no one in particular. Well, she's talking to Mika, but she's not. She never really talks to anyone. She just kind of talks, and maybe people hear her.
Like, to me, it looks like she talks through people, not to people, through people.
But she's talking about how now Mika is coming home early and Lain is staying out late doing God knows what, as she puts it in the English dub.
Heh.
And then Lain cuts home, but instead of cutting to Lain, we cut to Mika's face, and Mika has the most dead-eyed expression.
So, like, I feel it's important to note that, like, earlier when Lain was doing her, talk on the internet that seemed one-sided, in the real world she was just sort of, like, sitting there, just kind of pieced out. Not quite the same expression. This is just, like I said in the last episode, ego death. But I think, like, my thought after watching this was, I bounced off of what I said in the previous episode about how Mika was sort of experiencing what Lain does without being Lain, and I feel like it's that sort of thing where, like, this might be a, like, trance similar to what Lain goes through when she's online, but I just get the feeling that Mika's not online. I don't think she's anywhere right now.
Yeah, funny that you phrase it like that, because we do get to see there's a difference between the way Lain goes online and everybody else goes online. Chiaki Konaka has actually explained what happens to Mika. There's no spoilers for the show. I think we've already seen what he's talking about. It's one of the few things that he's actually come out and said about the show, which makes me think he was trying to convey it and just stumbled a bit. So the thing that happened with Mika is that she tried to enter the wire the way that Lain does and could not get out. And I think that's what we saw last episode.
Alright, so I got it. Go me.
I did want to say, I think in one of the earlier episodes of this podcast, I said that Lain was a technomancer. I'm doubling down on that. Lain is a technomancer because this is a Shadowrun thing. If you're not a technomancer and you try to access, the internet, the extranet in Shadowrun, the way Technomancer does, and you're not a Technomancer, it does this to you. Exactly this. Seriously, open up the fucking Shadowrun book. You'll see. It basically melts your brain and turns you catatonic. It's great. Don't do it. Anyway, Lain's a Technomancer, and also she's God.
But yeah, when I first watched this show and I was looking for content about it, that was something that came up. My first thought was, well, that's kind of interesting. Sure would have been nice if you'd shown it, because I was a fool who didn't realize that's what episode 5 was all about. And I was tempted to bring it up then, but I thought I should wait until we see the full ramifications of what happened. Because yeah, at first this soulless Mika is able to fake being conscious, but now I guess she's just stopped. She's no longer able to do that. Yeah, did I mention who plays her in the English dub? It's Patricia Jolie. I think she was one of the Pink Power Rangers. I forget which one. I want to say the Galaxy Ranger.
Man, once you get past
but
the
as a Power Ranger,
ones, I stopped paying attention. So yeah.
As a Power Ranger that went into voice acting, she's pretty good. A lot of the Power Rangers become pretty good voice actors if they go into voice acting. Her, Johnny Young Bosch, the guy who played Dante.
What did Bulk and Skull ever do? Bring back Bulk and Skull.
This isn't the shit post. This is, I think, what actually happened. I think Skull went back to Shakespearean theater.
Nice.
Because that's what he was doing before Power Rangers.
That fucking rules. What about Bulk?
He may have been the same. Oh my god, have they ever played Rosencrantz and Guildenstern?
That would be awesome.
The next scene is Lain re-entering her hacker cave. I like that as she opens it, there's a bunch of beeping.
Wait, my bit. I'm sorry. I really like Love Lain. It's a normal mom and normal sister. normal family, in normal life. This is extremely normal. Okay, we're good. Now you can go on.
Next scene is Lain entering her hacker cave again, and I like that as soon as she walks in, everything just starts beeping. That's what I want to take time out of my day to set up. I want to walk home and all my stuff just beeps to life, like I'm walking onto a fantasy starship.
It's completely. I was like trying to equate it to the experience I had waking up one day to find that I had like several dozen DMs. And I was like, oh god, what happened? And I just closed my phone and went back to bed.
Can you really say your life is complete if you don't walk home and your computer just starts screaming at you?
Yeah, because it's not even like a pre-recorded "Hello, user Lain" thing. It just starts shouting the news at her, specifically the news report of her own naked body appearing in the sky.
Yeah, so now we know that everybody, or at least the news reporter saw it was her. So that was what everybody was seeing.
We then
Or,
get
wait, I could get conspiracy
nope.
theory, or it's what the news wants you to think everybody saw. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
We then get another scene of Lain in The Wired, and I think this is what is supposed to confirm that Lain. This isn't just some weird representation. Lain is actually physically in The Wired, because there is, like a tutorial NPC. Is what I think of him as. There's another character who can only manage a mouth, and he explicitly says, like, it's so cool that you're able to manifest your whole body in here. Most people can only manage ears, and I can manage a mouth, and that takes like the highest end software.
This guy just seems like he should have like a catchy villain song in the middle of this show.
The truth is, this guy reminds me a little bit of Hexadecimal. Like, but
No spoilers.
yeah, we'll get to it. But yeah, it brought back those happy vibes. That's all. I hope we see more of him.
I did. So the English voice actor for this voice is Richard Epcar. He's done a ton of things that I can never remember any of them. He was Edamon in Digimon. He's Old Joseph in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think he's Bateau in Ghost in the Shell, but that might be a different actor who's also in this episode that I'm going to talk about later. But he just does like a game show announcer voice in the English dub.
Oh yeah, I still haven't listened to that yet. I'll do that later.
So yeah, so yeah, the famous Lain. But I did listen to the Japanese voice, and the Japanese voice does not give that vibe off at all. It's weird, like he sounds enthusiastic but not happy. He sounds kind of mad actually, but also enthusiastic at the same time. I don't understand how he's doing that. Lain refers to this character as a Cheshire Cat wannabe, or a Cheshire Cat poser in the dub. And I like, poser is funnier to me. Lain asks him about the game that all the kids are playing. The Cheshire Cat says, like, what are you talking about? What makes you think it's a game? Lain says that to kids anything can be a game.
Edgy.
Before the voice can actually give her any helpful information, Lain pulls up a picture of a scientist who she and the voice refer to as the child killer scientist.
So great start right there. Class act of a guy.
Before the voice runs off, the voice reminds Lain to ask about kids. And he says, I helped Lain, I'm going to be so popular. And then after he leaves, Lain says, I was already going to ask him about that, you moron. So, Jenner, much as I fucking hate this term, what was the 90s internet slang for a simp?
I mean, a white knight was the main one.
Okay, that kind of fits,
Yeah.
because this guy also talks about the knights.
Yeah. They're called simps now, but they were called white knights and internet tough guys. A little bit further down the history. But at the beginning, it was white knights. Yeah.
I feel like
And
Yeah,
white
I
knights
hate-
and nice guys with the TM after it in the early days.
So the reason I hate the term simp so much is that I really hate how the internet is so hostile to the idea of being nice to women.
Yep.
And the simp is just used to further that, but I cannot think of a word better to describe the way this guy is acting. I will say it's not genuine. He's just trying to get internet points with his friend group. He just wants to go, oh, I talked to Lain. I helped Lain. Hey guys, did I talk about the time I helped Lain? I helped Lain. Did you know that I helped Lain?
I think
Anyways, they also give us a name.
I mentioned very briefly, and I'll do it again very briefly, but I've been in and out of organizing and activism for a very, very long time. Almost 25 years now. And when you're doing it just to get noticed, so people can notice that you're doing a good thing, get the fuck out of activism and organizing. It's not about you. Don't center yourself Fuck off. Leave my organizations before I kick you in the dick. Or other body parts that you have that I want to kick you in if you don't have a dick. Okay, that's it. I kept it short.
They also give a name to the child killer scientist. His name is Professor Hodgson. So in this universe, Joel Hodgson did not create Mystery Science Theater 3000. He became the child killer scientist.
Makes sense. That's the natural progression. Wouldn't you agree, Alice?
Yeah, I mean, I have been watching a lot of Mystery Science Theater 3000 because my wife likes to fall asleep to it, so yes, that is totally where I expected him to go.
1 minute you're a prop comic that's getting into fights with Gallagher, the next you're murdering a bunch of children.
Probably because of Gallagher,
Honestly,
if we're being honest.
Bro, I know this is actually a prequel, and he started this way, and it's just gonna loop back one day. It's a brick joke, like the best brick joke.
See, the thing about this is that because the character is Robinson and not Hodgson, I can't say, like, surprise the Mads weren't the evil ones all along. There's a good reason they shot him into space, but no, it's just the actual person. Sleepy voice, constantly stoned Joel Hodgson. MST3K is actually weirdly appropriate because Lain confronts Hodgson, and in the English dub, Hodgson is voiced by Michael Forrest, who is an actor in a ton of Roger Corman movies. It takes forever to get to any of them on IMDb because he never stopped acting. He is in a ton of anime and does a shit ton of voiceover work. He's in, Paranoia Agent. In one episode, he's in Samurai Champloo. He's in Suikoden 4, Ghost in the Shell,
dear.
The Big O. What else? Overman King Geiner, Witch Hunter Robin, Kessen 2, Shadow of Destiny, Cowboy Bebop the movie is Ticket, whoever the hell Ticket is. He voices some Power Rangers characters. The dude is like 91 years old, and he was in a movie that came out in the year 2020.
Jeez.
What a machine.
He just he describes the way he approaches acting. He just does it. It's just a job. There's no worrying about the quality of it. You just do it because it's what you're hired to do. So I consider him one of the like blue collar actors. All acting is work, but he is one of those that just really treats it like work, and I can actually appreciate that because he puts in a good performance here. I think it was also just surreal, like checking his IMDb page. He's like, "Oh, I like that voice. Whatever else he's been in." Excuse me, Roger Corman, leading man, born in 1929 and still making movies. Anyways, Hodgson is also physically in The Wired, in a rather scenic part of it. He's on a balcony overlooking some nice scenery.
Alright, so I guess this is how he eats and breathes.
He compliments Lane's ability to manifest in The Wired. He is trying to avoid talking about the kids system until Lain pushes him. And I like that the first thing he says about the experiment, when Lain says, "Show me the data from 15 years ago," Hodgson says, "I never meant to harm them." Always a great line to start with, Hodgson, you moron. Now we know you meant to harm them.
Alright, before we begin, just know I fucked up a little bit.
Lain then says that she's trying to figure out about the game that the kids are playing now, but she needs to know what happened 15 years ago to know what's happening now, because they're reproducing the experiment. The professor says he destroyed it, but somebody dug it out of his trash can, and then he explains the Kensington experiment. He says the PSI is present in most children, but very weak, and the experiment was meant to draw that energy out of the children and combine it with the energy of other children's. Children, not children's.
Oh, so instrumentality.
Yeah, except they don't turn into Tang. So an incomplete version. The professor says he was looking for practical applications, not just trying to prove that he was right. And this, for whatever reason, this is what causes Lain to lash out at him and says you didn't care about the children at all.
Look, if you really cared about them, you'd just let them learn PSI healing and leave it at that.
The KID system converted the weak electromagnetic waves of the brain received by the outer receptors and enhanced the functions of a specific area of the brain. This seems to have either backfired or worked perfectly and created a massive explosion that killed all the children. I think part of the purpose behind the scene is to illustrate how, at the time, I could see why they would think, like, oh, this makes it harder for things to be disposed of because they can just show up on the internet. But now we're on the other side of that problem where it's so easy for things to just vanish off of the internet. It's just like for every time I hear something, like, if you put something on the internet, it's there forever. I just go, no, tell that to every GeoCities website.
Yeah, like the real scary thing about the internet is just how not permanent it is, in the sense of like, you know, there's always this sort of like external reality we can trust, right? You know, stuff works according to the laws of the world around us. Paper decays in a certain way. You can do certain things to marble. Like, decay happens predictably, generally. But with the internet, what makes it really terrifying is that predictability is just not there. Like, stuff disappears in an instant, things are discontinued, or random shit ends up being available for 40 fucking years with no signs of stopping because it happens to be in some place or another. And that's kind of scary. It's alien.
It is so surreal how many things that have been like considered lost media for 10 years have in fact been on some random part of the internet for 15 years. And nobody cared enough to look. And nobody cared. Nobody was able to find it.
Google didn't get me here. What the fuck?
Google, we're going to a place where Google has never tried before.
My favorite example, oh god, this is... I'm going to try and give the shortened version of all the absurd backstory this is going to need. So, does everybody remember the Aqua Teen Hunger Force bomb scare?
No?
Nope.
Okay, so to promote the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie, Cartoon Network hired an ad company, and what they came up with was they were going to make LCD displays of the Moon and Knight characters and put them in cities all over the U.S. Well, the one that they put in Boston was reported as being a bomb. The police department set a bomb disposal unit to it. It was just a bunch of wires and lights, and people thought it was a bomb. It ended up not being a bomb. Cartoon Network was sued for reckless endangerment or something along those lines and had to pay the city of Boston a settlement fee. In response, the creators of Aqua Teen Hunger Force made an episode mocking the incident, but they weren't allowed to put it on TV. But they did put it on YouTube almost as soon as it was done. And it sat there for like years before a huge amount of people found it. That is an example of lost media that, depending on how you look at it, was never really lost, because it was always just there. It wasn't unlisted, it wasn't private. It's just, why would you look for it there, of all places? Anyway, that's only marginally related to what we're talking about. I just wanted an excuse to talk about that. Other important things, or things from this conversation that I think are important. The professor mentions that the people who recreated this experiment were able to generate results without the autoreceptors, and he says they must be talented. And this is a more understandable point for Lain to lash out. I didn't write down exactly what she says, but I have, what the fuck do you mean talented? They're monsters. Lain again confronts him about not caring about the children. The professor says, no matter what I do, those children are never coming back to the real world, and there's less I can do about this current. I don't know what you're trying to do, but you're very powerful. If there is a God here, then you must have his blessing. There's so much in those 4 sentences. I don't even know where to start. I feel like his statement of, like, it doesn't matter what I do, what's done is done and they aren't coming back, is a lesson that some people need to learn. But coming from this guy, I want to punch his stupid old face.
Like, he's not wrong, in a sense, but
he's right, but that doesn't mean he should say it.
But he's obviously doesn't actually... That's not why he's like this. He's like this because he's a bastard. Like, this is not a guy who has wrestled with reality and realized, I can't do anything about it. This is a dude who decided 8 seconds after it went bad that, well, can't do nothing about that, and then spent the next, like, several decades not giving a shit.
He's just one eternal shrug emoji.
So we get more mentions of God. It's something that's weird to me is that Lain says, no, I don't have God's blessing. But I just remembered while recording this, she thinks that she's spoken to the God of the Wired. She thinks that deep voice that instructed her on the Bashuke processor and talked to her about the evolution of man is God. So it's weird that she thinks that she's talked to God but does not think that she has his blessing.
I mean, he did specifically say that.
I feel like God doesn't have back and forth conversations with people he's not planning on blessing. But yeah, I guess Lain doesn't necessarily have to think that way. The scene ends with the professor saying that the kid's power is coming from a rogue source. Lain asks who it is and then realizes who it is. The professor dies and he vanishes from the Wired along with the part of the Wired he is on. And this music sounds like one of the slower songs from Cowboy Bebop.
Here's to you, Mr. Hodgkinson. Heaven's not the place where you will go. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No, no, no.
Yeah, there's one of several points where I was like, this feels very classic anime that the same feeling I get from Cowboy Bebop, like visually speaking.
Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, so much of this show is built on the idea that in order to like fully integrate with the Wired, you have to die, and that dying is the only way for your consciousness to really be on the Wired full time, like with Chisa. But when Hodgson dies, he gets off the Wired. So
You're not
what
allowed
happened
here
there?
anymore. Lain just really didn't like him.
Listen, you gotta go.
My time's run up. You're right. It is. Goodbye.
Uh-huh. And he does tie it right to his life. Because he does say that he's dying, and then gets off the internet when he dies.
The reason you see Lane's back in this scene is because she just has the biggest grin.
Yeah. And he's able to fully manifest his body on the internet, so it's just, I don't know if I have an answer. I just think it's weird that he doesn't get to stick around on the Wired. I do like the idea that Lane somehow kicked him off.
He just manifested his entire self on the Wired so he wouldn't have to face consequences. You either
Okay,
have to have a
understandable.
high-end computer or just be really determined to never face justice for anything you've done.
We cut back to Lane at her computer. She is screaming at the Knights over what happened, which, yeah, by the way, that's who she realized did it. She realized the Knights are responsible for this. She realized that they were only helping her to look cool in front of their internet acquaintances or to pull off. I initially had this listed as pull off malicious pranks, but I changed it to harmful acts of terrorism. Because I feel like they've jumped up. I don't feel like mentally assaulting hundreds of children is a prank anymore. I think you've risen to domestic terrorism.
I mean, what's a little bit of domestic terrorism between friends? I mean, propaganda of the deed.
Truly, the Knights are doing a dirty deed and doing it for dirt cheap.
It is true. They are doing dirty deeds, and they are doing them dirt cheap.
Oh, look who's
Oh,
awake!
welcome back.
I'm back. I just, here's the thing. I was thinking about this, right? Is that, have we gotten to the point, I kind of did pass out there.
We know.
We heard you snoring.
Oh, good.
I commented on it.
Awesome. Okay, have we gotten to the part where they blow up her apartment yet?
Not yet.
Okay, then wake me up when we get to
Spoilers.
that. Because that's what I wanted to make this comment. Okay, but for right now, we've got these laser pointers that keep showing up everywhere.
I think
That's all.
I've only got two things to say before we get to the explosion, though. I want to talk again about the acting in the English dub. Something that I think Lane's VA... I'm going to get so much shit for this if anybody actually watches this. I think that Lane's English VA conveys Lane's shifts in personality a little bit better.
I wonder if she got any voice direction. From what I know, from talking to actual voice actor and kind of a jerk Joe Zaja, they don't even really give you any voice direction. They just print out a bunch of lines and tell you to read them, and then you just do that.
Well,
and sometimes they say no with more whatever, and then you do that. Or sometimes they say no, that this is what's going on with that character. Sometimes they even give you a write-up of the character and their personality, so you can put your energy into it. But you very rarely see the animation or have any idea of what's going on or have any kind of a direction on what the voice is supposed to sound like. Nowadays, that's 2020. Back in 1998, it was if you were a person of a age in which you would be consuming anime and it was fine for you to do so, in your teens in the 90s, like me. Y'all, voice acting in the 90s was not the best in most things, that's all.
Yeah, because, I mean, for anime especially, they really did not care for the longest time. It's just, alright, well, I guess we'll just bring this over to the US. Does anybody care? Probably not.
Yeah, I've heard about this from like people in the voice acting industry. And like at some point there was a switch because in the old days the Japanese companies didn't care what you did with their anime, and a lot of the dubs were nonsense because of that. But now the Japanese companies care very much about what you do with the anime, and a lot of the dubs are bad because of that. There's no like happy middle ground because you either give them too much creativity and they go off the deep end, or you're too restraining and you don't let them make changes that they really should make. My favorite example, I don't know if this ever actually made it to air because I never watched Hellsing, but one of the characters in Hellsing is Alucard, or as um, the Japanese company insisted on his name being pronounced in the English dub, Alucard, and would not hear any different.
Oh my god.
We're like told point blank by everyone working on the English dub, no, this should be pronounced with the "l" sound, and they just said no, it's Alucard.
Okay.
Extreme amounts of "I'm right, you're wrong" going on.
And while I'm at it, it was not 4Kids' idea to not call the rice balls rice balls. That was Toei. Toei thought that the only way to sell Pokemon internationally was to remove most references to Japanese specific things. I don't know if Toei came up with donuts, but Toei were the ones that said do not call them rice balls. It wasn't 4Kids. Shut the fuck up. It's also been 20 years.
Actually, that reminds me, if anybody's aware of, like, the original Animal Crossing, the N64 one, that didn't come out stateside, or, you know, outside of Japan in general, that one had a whole lot of, like, Japanese cultural stuff, like holidays, events, and whatnot, in there, and that's, like, one of the reasons that didn't come out. It's, like, the games since then have been a fair bit less, like, Japanese-centric, because I guess they just figured, alright, yep, nobody's gonna want to play this game about, like, Japanese holidays outside of Japan.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of like playing Okami, which by the way is one of my favorite games. Okami goes really into older, ancient Japanese mythology and Shinto and Buddhism as like a lot of its themes. And it's a really good game if you haven't played it, and I love it. It's the best Zelda.
And it does not catch you up on it.
Yeah, it does.
If you don't know, you just don't know. You're out of luck. I'm sorry,
it
my
just
guy.
assumes you know it.
It assumes you know it, or eventually you're just going to be the Japanese mythology nerd. Either way.
Yeah, it's like at one point you stumble across Changa, who is the goddess of the moon. And it's not Changa, she's pretending to not be Changa. But I'm like, is this lady gonna go to the fucking moon? And then she does, and I'm like, awesome, it was Changa. That's all. That was my Okami experience. Oh, and the fox lady. I don't want to spoil Okami too much, but I knew the fox lady was going to do the thing that the fox lady does, because I know Japanese mythology, because I'm a weeb.
But yeah, back to what I was saying about Lane's VA. Although, were you going to say something else, Fefner?
No, it's just amused.
Okay. There are specific points where I do have more things to say about English Lain versus Japanese Lain. For this, I'm worried about spoiling future events, but Lane's English voice slips into a different type of reading that I recognize from other parts of the show, and I think it's important that it shows up here. But I'll talk about that later. Because now we're into the final scene of the episode, where Lain confronts the Men in Black, because she thinks they are the Knights. She runs out of her room to confront them. The taller man in black says, "Please get down," and then her room blows up.
Jenner, you were so close to just, like, sliding in.
Nope, I'm here.
Like, just the right time.
I'm totally here.
After being asleep.
Nope, I'm back. Yeah, her room blows up. So...
If you had just woken up a few minutes later, you could have been like, ah, yes, her room blows up, and you'd be like, dang, we just talked about that.
Fucking hell, I'm here. Hi. Lane's room blows up. The thing I love about this is that this dude who's talking to her, she asks him if he did it, and he says no. And then eventually, like, she asks then who did, and he says the Knights, but he's the Knights. And I think it's funny because, like, he could be telling the truth. Because, like, just because you're part of a thing doesn't mean you're the one who did it. This is a very, like, kind of, technically, I'm being honest with you, I'm not the one who personally went up and blew your fucking room up, kind of thing. Yeah, and I thought that was really cool that this dude could be being incredibly selectively honest with Lain about how it's totally not him, it was somebody else, but it was the Knights, who he is a part of, but I'm not, goodbye. It was kind of neat. In terms of, like, her room blowing up, the one joke I wanted to make is, well, that's one way to get somebody off the fucking internet. That's it. That's what I made you all wait for. I'm sorry.
By the way, the pressure gauge that is supposed to be the foreshadowing for the room about to blow up has a website on it. Mobius, I think it's like Mobius as in Sonic's Homeworld.co.uk. That is not a real website, but Mebius.co.uk is, and it sells computer parts.
Yeah. I mean, it was...
So basically, they couldn't get the license for Mebius, so they had to use Mobius instead.
I was going to say, like, Alice used the word, like, the term Mobius earlier in one of the rants I spurred her into going on, so I was hoping she could start doing the pinboard man meme.
Oh shit!
About this.
No, guys, Mobius.co.uk. It's a real site now.
Okay, then let me make sure it doesn't say Mebius in the thing.
They sell. Looks like they sell their cloud stuff now and servers for big companies.
Okay, yeah, then I had it backwards. I pulled the episode up again. The gauge does say Mebius.co.uk, and so the real website is Mobius.
Okay.
Which maybe by now Mebius does redirect, but I don't know.
That's kind of neat. That, like, well, it's like one of those things about, like, censorship of caption stuff. It's just like, we don't want people to know that this person is drinking Coke, so we've named it Cock, and that's fine. Nobody's gonna make fun of that. Don't worry about it. We're safe now. We don't have to pay anybody any money.
Dr. Yes.
Dr. Yes.
As Jenner says, the Men in Black say that the Knights blew up her room and then leave. And the taller Man in Black, the one that does all the talking, is the other English voice actor I wanted to mention. He's voiced by Jamieson Price, who, if Richard Epcar is not the voice of Bateau, then Jamieson Price is. The two of them do a lot of the deep-voiced anime characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of their shtick.
Yeah. I think
off the top of my head, the only character I can think of him playing, Jamieson Price plays the Colonel from Akira in the redub.
Yeah.
So the one that actually sounds like a burly guy and not a teenager who's barely through puberty.
Yeah.
The original dub of the Colonel is like comically bad, and you should all hear it.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot it while you kept talking. Sorry. Oh wait, I remembered it. That brings us to the end of the
episode.
Lane's persona is a bear. That's why she wears all this bear stuff, and she has this bear stuff everywhere. Because Lane's persona is a bear. Because Lane's a furry. Bears don't really fall that easily for the laser beam thing that you can do to cats. Laser pointer stuff. They're a bit too intelligent to really fall for it as easily. You can still get them, but it's a bit harder. They're usually got bigger, more important bear things on their minds than to play with the laser pointer. But that would explain why Lain doesn't even care that they have laser pointers all over her, because she's a bear. Me as a furry here telling you how it all goes down. Thanks. Also, I'm gay.
Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Any general thoughts on this episode?
This was a, no joke, actually fairly normal-ish episode as far as Lain episodes go. I missed the trains that were metaphors for trains.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to say, is that this episode is considerably more straightforward than any other episode.
I mean, maybe terrible scientists are the metaphor for trains in this case, getting a little more complicated here. There ain't no stopping that train he's on, and that train he's on is getting kids killed in terrible experiments.
I want to know if, like, this is a I want to know if this is a you fuck one goat situation, or if he actually had multiple experiments that all ended with the death of at least one child.
I mean, one is enough.
Like, he helped his grandson build a baking soda volcano and it blew up and killed him.
Whoops. Happens to the best of us. Who's among us hasn't? Come on now.
God damn it, Hodgson, you're supposed to be studying grade. How did you kill 30 children?
I'm just happy that, once again, I am proven right and vindicated in my steadfast belief that Lain is secretly the god of this new world.
Indeed. I have a question just kind of not really related to Lain at all. Has there ever been a good scientist in anime ever?
Probably.
Can
Yes.
anybody name one?
Yes, the scientist.
Fuck, I can't think of his name. Damn
The
it.
scientist from some of the new Pokemons. The scientists have been good, unlike Professor Oak, who is the worst.
What are you talking about? I've never done anything unethical.
He can't even remember his own grandkid's name. Shut up.
That kid sucks.
Gary,
You don't like him, I know you don't.
I was trying to think of Koji's grandfather in Shin Mazinger Z. I can't think of his name, but he is a good scientist
Okay,
who actually cares about the people in his life.
adjacent to that, has there ever been a good psychologist or mental health professional in anime?
Yeah, that's actually probably the more difficult question.
So the one in Nadeshiko means well, but she's surrounded by like the worst case scenario as far as being a psychologist in an enclosed environment is.
I would argue that Soji Mikage is a good psychologist. In this essay, I will. No, he's a problematic fave of mine.
Is he a psychologist or is he a priest? Because he's doing more
a
confessional stuff.
bit of both. You will find that the Venn diagram between priest and psychologist is surprisingly circular, a bit unnervingly so at times.
Oh yeah, this was another episode that I was thinking of when I thought of like Lain becoming X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
Like episode 4 is Lain solving a problem. This is Lain solving a problem. Episode 5 is a weird way to break this up. I feel like if
It's somebody else
like-
having problems.
and Lain doesn't solve them.
Nope.
I feel like if 4 and 6 were right next to each other, it would have been more obvious that, like, what am I trying to say? I feel like more people would have also thought that Lain was going to become X-Files.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is this the part where I do my bits, like the end bits, or do we do the end bits after this part?
If somebody has something they want to say before we move on to our ending bits, then they should say them now, because I think we're about to start.
I don't really have much,
Yeah.
because it's kind of straightforward, and yeah, it is just an episode of the Lain Files. Anything I could say is pretty much answered by the episode itself.
Alice, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm a little
Alright.
shocked at the
Jenner, ask your
amount
question.
of the lack of hidden depths, or at least how little I'm recognizing any actual hidden depths in this episode. And from what I've told you all, we're coming up on the episode that just makes everybody go, I'm out. It's like this episode leading almost up into that episode is making me go, that's all. So, hey Alice.
Hello.
As our foremost expert on Alice's, what are your thoughts about Alice's episode?
We don't exactly see a lot of her this episode, but I continue to think that Alice is pretty okay, and she is very much not terminally online, which I believe may become a problem in the future.
Yeah, she's concerned about Lain, but she's not particularly pushy anymore. She's just trying to keep Lain from falling off the wagon, or whatever term you would use for something that isn't alcoholism.
Yeah. Do you think
I did-
Do you think Alice is a real person? Alice, our Alice. Do you think Lain Alice is a actual real person?
Yes.
Okay.
I will refuse to
I'm
explain.
sorry, I was about to lose my mind. I was about to just go like, oh god, we're about to segue into a fucking
Alice,
who's on first.
Hey, our Alice, do you think our Alice, is our real person?
Do any Alices even exist?
Is Alice even real?
A little bit.
She's right here.
You can't prove it.
It's true, I can't.
They need to start remembering to transition into this bit by saying, alright, Jenner, go ask Alice.
Yeah, no, let me just
Because
do
I'm sure
it.
that people... I'm sure that people will know that I'm referencing that fucking awful book.
Oh, God. No. That's not going to make me stop doing the bit. Alright,
All
tell
right,
us
well,
what
I'm
you
not going to
think.
stop doing my bit.
Yep. Tell us what you think the show's about so I can give you my bullshit.
All right, it's time once again when I ask my co-hosts what they think the plot is. I've actually, I just said I was not going to stop, but I might retire this bit because, Alice, you've been remarkably consistent.
I just have seen nothing else to convince me it's not happening. In fact, if anything, this episode is even more convincing me it's happening.
So I'm going to push back, not because I think you're right or because I think you're wrong, but because somebody has to push back, and I don't think these two are going to do it. If Lain is becoming the god of the wire, then who is this voice that's talking to her?
I have two theories. The first is that it is paracausally Lain talking to herself. It is a part that these are two different parts of Lain that do not yet know each other, that have not yet been reconciled to one another.
Real lane only zone. Other lanes don't interact.
My other theory is that
Just hammering a sign out on the lawn that says no other lanes allowed. Sorry, go on, Alice.
my other theory, but that doesn't involve sort of a fractured Lain, is just because Lain is the god of the wire doesn't mean that she is the only one. I mean, if anything, I think we see a lot of evidence that the Wired can both destroy people, but it could also kind of change them and make them into something else. Like, in this episode, we get to see a bit of how the Wired interacts with human consciousness with the Kensington experiment, and there's something in human consciousness which can be altered or can alter itself into kind of higher stages or states, supposedly. I think it's either TLDR, it's either a form of Lain or a kind of Lain, and this is paracausal, or two, it is a kind of demiurge. An earlier version of what Lain is becoming is also already in the Wired and is aware of Lain's advent and wants her to complete what it is the beginning of.
I'm gonna do an adjacency thing here, in a serious thing. So
Before you do that,
before I do my dumb thing. But no, I'm worried I'm gonna lose it if I don't say it now. No, I'm scared. Go ahead, but I might lose
say it.
Okay, my hot take is that the internet was just the internet. The Wired was just the Wired. But somehow it started to become alive after Chisa did her thing. And other people started interacting with it. Chisa, came in with that headcanon. And now the Wired is becoming alive. And it's not so much, and self-aware. And has a will of its own. And a drive and desires of its own. And it's not so much that Lain is the Wired's, is the god of the Wired. So much as the Wired has chosen Lain, for whatever arbitrary reasons, I assume because Chisa had an impact on it, to be, for lack of a better word, their avatar. Their their prophet, the Jesus of the Wired. Not actually God, but its prophet. It's avatar. It's front face. Okay, so not actually God. But you go ahead and cover for me. You're temping.
They've chosen her to be their own personal Jesus.
Yes.
Someone to hear their prayers, someone who's there.
Mm-hmm. And it's not the people of the internet who've chosen. It's the internet itself that's become self-aware. The Wired itself that has become self-aware, that has chosen Lain. And everyone else is well, if the internet says so. You don't think anybody would do that, just go on the internet and tell lies. So that's my serious, and then I have a kind of jokey, I will push back against Alice in a jokey way when it's my turn to be not serious. But just as an adjacency to Alice's theory, I think it's not that Lain is a god, it's that the internet is becoming alive. And Lain is getting caught up in it. There you go.
I just wanted to say it's been a while since I've played Xenogears, so my knowledge of Gnosticism is not as good as it once was. The demiurge is like a creature that thinks it's a god but isn't a god, right? It's like super powerful, but isn't actually a god, but likes to pretend that it's a god.
Yeah, kinda. It is a thing which
Okay.
created the material world, and it is imperfect, and the thing that it created is also imperfect and sucks, or at least is incomplete.
I like how you've decided that, like, okay, well, obviously this voice is, some form important. It's not just some asshole. Because that's also an option. This voice could just turn out to be some rando that is fucking with
I
Lain
just don't think
and is accidentally going to actually awaken God.
I just don't think so. Like, I mean, it's very possible because the girl in the beginning ended up kind of vanishing from the story to a degree. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, I will also kind of not be that surprised.
R/ask Reddit. So I kind of fucked up. I need some advice. I may have created God. What do I
As you
do?
do.
R/legal advice. I created God. Am I liable for this?
Gosh.
All right. Fefner, what do you think the plot is?
Yeah, so, like, since this episode is so straightforward, I can't really glean much new stuff. I guess, first off, I'm interested in knowing why Lane's asking about this, but I feel like it's just, in the grand scheme of things, she's trying to accumulate knowledge. And then the other thing, like, the big thing that happened, is just Lane in the sky. So, fucking, there's more apotheosis for you right there. Just appearing in the actual real world.
Alright, well,
I feel like, I don't know if I could really discern what the voice is at the moment, but, like, I don't know if it's necessarily Lane's voice, because Lain can be a lot of different things, and different people view her as different things, so...
At the end of this podcast, we're all going to realize that the real Lane was the us we made along the way.
The real
this
Lain never
truly
existed, it
is
was
the
just
serial
God.
experiments Lain.
Yeah, I guess just like the voices she's hearing might be the same person, it might be different people sort of steering her in a different direction. I don't even know if it's necessarily like conscious, these voices. I don't know if they're actively trying to do this. It could just be like not passive thoughts, fucking what's the word? Subconscious. It could be subconscious acting through the Wired. Because Lane's the only person who can really manifest herself that strongly on the Wired.
Let me ask you for a prediction on this. How many more straightforward episodes like this do you think we're going to get? Using this as a baseline for straightforwardness. If it is this straightforward or more, it counts as a straightforward episode.
So let's see, this is episode 5 or 6. Are we on?
6.
6.
There
And
are
there are
7
13
more.
episodes. Oof, that's actually a tough call. There might be like 1 or 2 more where Lain just does a thing.
You don't think this is going to become Azumanga Daioh and pretend that nothing else has happened?
I feel like the door is closing on Lain files. I feel like we'll get to the point where this is all just at the forefront now.
It becomes like Stranger Things, where she realizes she's dead, like the lady in Stranger Things does. I think her name was Lauren. I forget. Laura realizes she's dead in Stranger Things. I watched it for the Monster Hearts campaign, and then memory hold it.
Was that a season 1 or 2 thing and I just forgot, or did
I
you spoil
don't
the
know.
third season for me?
I don't know. It's just a thing I remember from when I watched it. It's the only thing that I can remember from Stranger Things, even though it was actually a really good show. I also remember them playing Dungeons and Dragons, and that being like my favorite. And I just wish they could have just kept playing Dungeons and Dragons.
I miss Dungeons and Dragons.
Now I'm sorry I asked this question.
Oh no!
Because I didn't mean for you to have Stranger Things spoiled for you, honey. I'm sorry.
It might look. I might be thinking. Look, first of all, I've fallen asleep at least 3 times. I might be thinking of something else.
I'm thinking of The Sixth Sense.
It might be
Damn
the
it.
Sixth Sense. It's not the Sixth Sense.
Dang it, I was thinking of Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis is dead. It's true. The real reason. Okay, wait.
God,
wait,
if you're
wait,
like
wait,
the
wait,
one-
God. The real reason that Die Hard is a Christmas movie is because Bruce Willis is the ghost of Christmas future. Thanks.
If one of our viewers is like, one of the 7 people that had never had The Sixth Sense spoiled for them, then I apologize, because you really deserved to find that out through the movie
I'm
if you
sorry.
managed to find this
I'm
without
sorry.
having it spoiled.
I'm sorry that I ruined the fact that Bruce Willis is the ghost of Christmas Future for you, hypothetical listener.
I'm sorry that you're watching Die Hard instead of playing Bayonetta 2, which is a Christmas classic.
Fafner, let's play both Bayonettas, please.
If I get a way to record Switch, sure. I'd do it.
All right,
I'd love to do it.
I'll try and find a way for you. I'm gonna search it out. We're gonna do this.
Alright, that brings us to Jenner. What do you think the plot is?
Hey, it's time for me to push back against Dallas with the shitpost. Alright, here.
Actually,
what?
let me make sure, Fafner, you didn't have anything more to say,
Alice,
right?
Nah, I'm good.
You good?
I'm just pondering at this point.
Okay. Alright, so, again, I'm still on my bullshit that this is a slice of life anime. I'm gonna die on this fictional hill. That this is a slice of life anime where every episode is supposed to teach us a valuable lesson. And there's no fucking god shit. There's no fucking deep, existential, whatever, like deep, introspective, spiritual, whatever going on in this show. It's just a cute, happy, wholesome slice of life anime that teaches us an important moral lesson at the end of every episode. And this important moral lesson is that the relationships that you make online are just are important, almost if not as important as your real life relationships. And I could prove this by saying "fuck you." There's no God.
You know what? You're probably right on all of
Thanks.
those points. So I will concede that it is in
Hell
fact
yes.
a
We did it.
slice of life anime.
We did it.
Jenner, I like how you alternate between, like, actual good lessons and just jokingly garbage lessons.
It's part of my bit. The one thing I guess I'm the most deeply upset about myself is I was not able to maintain. I'm going to take this completely serious, like, the whole way through and not look for anything deeper because it was just impossible. Like, after the first episode, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'll make myself
I also
insane.
like how-
I'll be like one of those people on the side of the street screaming shit by the end of this podcast.
I also like how, going by your lessons, the show is teaching you to stay off the internet, and also that the relationships you make on the internet are very important.
No.
Getting some mixed signals
I
here.
have to go through the episodes again because I have not been keeping track of my notes, but I believe it once more. Be careful on the internet, right? Don't fuck around on the internet too much, kids. Control your kids' screen time, but like be careful about the friends you make on the internet because some of them might actually be FBI agents, even though none of the ones I met were. Unless any of you would like to come forward. If you're a federal agent, you have to say so.
Ah, shit, you're right. Damn it. You finally got me.
Fuck. And this one now, which is the relationships that you make online are just as, like, very important. They are at least, if not, they're as close to as important as real life ones as you could make, in my opinion. And in this show, it's basically like Reiko's saying these connections suck, but then like the entire fucking episode is about how these connections are helping, keeping Lain together. But she should still make flesh and blood friends. Everybody should make some flesh and blood friends after COVID. So in a time when it won't kill you to do so.
Alright, but I think that does it for this week's episode.
I'm gay and I'm ready to
We
love
will
Lain.
see you all.
I'm looking forward to it.
We will see you all next week for episode 7.
I'll probably
Bye,
not fall
everyone.
asleep this time.
Bye.
Yep.
Goodbye.